Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life. Okay, we are recording.
Awesome.
Are we all set?
As set as we will be. I don't know if I sit in a different angle, if it's better, but we'll go with this.
All right. All right, then, everybody, welcome back to Black Lodge Trivia Night. We are a tabletop RPG actual play and discussion podcast. And tonight, Matt, you're here. Patrick's not, but Matt, how are you doing?
Pretty good. And we're going to play tonight.
We're actually going to do some,
We're going to play a good old game. A game I'm really enjoying, a little Vaesen. I'm doing well. How you doing, Art?
Doing okay, yeah. But I am excited. We're picking up part 4 of our Vaesen playthrough. I don't think this is meant to be like a 4 to 6 part. I don't really know what this is meant to be, but I've been really enjoying it. So hopefully,
yeah. But you did the Zero deal, which was a complete add-on, which I really appreciated. We did like a little build-up story.
That's true. In case, to do a little bit of homework, legwork, just in case we wanted to make this more. That's true.
Groundwork, maybe.
Groundwork.
Lay a little groundwork. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do have to say, for the visual people, our basement is just like really chaotic right now, and I've got shelves right behind me. And so instead of bearing that shame and guilt, I will do this virtual screen that doesn't look great. I acknowledge that, but it should be temporary.
Honestly, I bought that when he showed me what it looked like, and it was basically just college students on meat hooks. So that whole thing about it's a little I respect, but it's doing the job.
No comment.
Under advice of counsel. All right. Well, anyway, before we get going and start talking more about meat hooks, do you want to do a little trivia?
Sure do.
All right. Do you want me to bust something out?
Yeah, you probably ought to.
Okay, so this one might be a little bit difficult, but we will see how it goes. It's just one of those, it's like a little bit of minutia, and it's not quite about the show. It's more about some of the people.
Okay.
Here we go. David Lynch not only brilliantly writes and directs the show and the movies, he plays brilliantly the character FBI Chief Gordon Cole. Gordon Cole is the name of a character in another work, in a movie. Do you know what movie the name Gordon Cole comes from? The hint, which might not help, is that David Lynch on occasion has said it's one of his all-time favorite films.
Okay, is it something like The Third Man or The Man Who Fell to Earth or something like that?
I will say it's a classic. It's an older classic
film. But neither of those two.
No.
Those would be my guess. Either one of those two. I'm trying to think in terms of, like, I'm imagining a few different like Criterion Blu-rays.
Mm-hmm. That would not be a bad place to start.
Yeah. Not Man Who Fell to Earth, not The Man with No Name. I'll just take a guess because I'm The Man Who Came in from the Cold, but I doubt that's it.
No, but not a bad line of reasoning. It was Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
Which is,
I don't think I've ever seen Sunset Boulevard.
I was sitting there like, did I see this? And I was like, let me go read what the plot synopsis is. I'm like, yes, I did a while ago. It's actually a really interesting, shockingly dark movie. But, it has the famous ending where, like, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille, And she's
is that?
Yeah, because it's a really trippy movie. And Gordon Cole is a studio executive at Paramount Pictures in that movie. That's the character.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where David Lynch got the name for his character in Twin Peaks from...
Ooh, I took a film appreciation class in both high school and college. And one of those might have had Sunset Boulevard. I'm looking it up now. It does remind me a little bit, just probably because it's black and white. Double Indemnity. You ever see that classic?
I did. And actually, some of the characters' names from Twin Peaks come from Double Indemnity.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that trivia question.
I couldn't tell you which ones, but I know a couple come from there. A couple come from, at least one comes from Sunset Boulevard. And there was one other one. But yeah, Double Indemnity, I mean, it's really good.
It is. Yeah. It was my true, like, maybe there's stuff as a kid or young teen that I saw like film noir stuff, but it was like the first time I like sat down and it was like, here is an example of film noir. And I was just like, oh shit, I love this genre.
Yes. Yeah. That's the trick, right? Like sometimes like everybody says, oh, these movies are classics. And then sometimes you see them and like, well, it was old and it felt old and blah, blah. But sometimes there are these films that are classics. You're like, oh my God, like at least for my taste, like that held up. And I love when I stumble across one of those. Yeah. Anyway.
Nice. Great question.
There we go.
I like it.
Yeah. So, having taken care of that bit of business, we're back here at the Witch Cat Inn. Last time, of course, at the very end, Sophia showed you her shadow play. During the play, her voice, as she was behind the curtain, turning the crank, deepened, got more masculine. And at the end of the shadow play, Oscar revealed himself and he said to you, what was the name? Not Hilmer, the other one.
Halbert.
He said, welcome, Albert. And he sort of flew right through you and like incorporeally blew right through you, went down the stairs of the basement. And I think we sort of left it there. You went downstairs and I believe your partner, Gerton, was there with Sammy, the inn owner, and Sammy's daughter. So, no, she was.
They were downstairs watching while.
Yeah, they stayed on the second floor while you. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what it's like. It's like welcome, Albert, and then it whooshed through you, and that's sort of where we stopped. So,
worth mentioning that Oscar seemed to imply that Helmer and Halbert, or just Albert, were nefarious. I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but they were up to no good, even though they were early members of the society or like predated the society or whatever. But
that's correct. Yeah. And you had found, I think, Oscar's journal back at the mansion at the society. And the last journal entry had him coming here to the Witch Cat Inn to meet Albert and Hilmer, as you mentioned, 2 members of the society. And that was his last entry, and not sure what happened. You can guess. He just showed up as a dead body and whooshed through. So we could have some theories, but technically we don't know.
Very good.
Anyway, so given that, what would you like to do?
Yeah, so immediately Ernest stands up, and the chair he was sitting on, falls to the floor, and he dashes forward. If there's a curtain, he brushes past, and he runs up to check on Sophia.
Yeah, and Sophia, she seems dazed, and she, almost is like, she lost some time. She's not exactly sure what just happened at the end of the, she remembers starting the play and starting the story, and then kind of isn't quite sure what came next. And she's quite flustered.
I will just real quickly look around to see if I see anything, and then I'm going to scoop her up in my arms.
Okay.
And head down, or at least get to the trapdoor. I assume it's a ladder, and call down to Sammy.
Yeah. And when you pick her up, her skin is like ice cold. And she starts shaking, shivering. And so Sammy, he's sort of dazed as well. And Gerton is like, what the hell just happened up there? And Sammy's sort of out of it for a second.
Sammy, I think some wrongdoing may have occurred here. There's ill spirits afoot. Sammy, take your daughter to her room.
And, so you sort of ease her down, and he sort of reaches up and he manages to grab her. And it's sort of the thing, even though she's 16 years old, somehow there's always the way a parent can carry their kid, right? No matter how big they get. And so he sort of takes her and brings her to her room. And, And so what would you like to do next? And you can hear her sort of comforting her, tucking her in. It's like, oh my God, Sophia, please stay with me. I can't lose you too, sort of stuff. Because if people at home remember her mother passed away.
I head down the trapdoor and I pull maybe Gertrude around the corner here. So we can still see the door, but maybe be outside of earshot. And I explain the events to him. And does Ernest, I'm not an experienced society member, but I have looked into like Vaesen and spirits in the past. Does that encounter
trigger something?
Bring up and trigger something in Ernest's memory, or after recalling it to Gerton, does he say anything?
Gerton, let me see. Give me. We'll do a couple of different rolls. Why don't you give me I think last time we determined it was a learning roll. So if you have that, give me a learning roll.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I gotta go over here. Back to my journal. Ooh.
Okay, so you got none. Gerton got 1. And I think what's going to happen is I think we had a roll similar like last time. And you get this is definitely something that seems Vaesen, but
okay.
You're not able to quite pinpoint exactly what's going on. You can't pinpoint exactly the Vaesen that would create this.
Okay. Or necessarily how to deal with them.
Right. Not yet, at least.
Gertrude, there is something that is, I don't want to imply the wrong thing, but a spirit is here and present in this inn, and I think we should help these people. Did you see?
Yeah, and Gerton's... Oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, well, I'm just going to ask if you saw where it went.
He said, well, it flew right through Sammy, actually, and then right through the wall. And, when it hit Sammy, he seemed really dazed for a moment. I'm not sure what happened there.
Through the wall and outside, or through the wall into one of these rooms?
The external wall of the house, outside.
Okay. Perhaps we should head downstairs and see if any of the other guests witnessed anything.
Now, if you remember last time, they all are asleep.
Oh, that's right.
So the only people awake are you and your partner Gerton, and then Sammy and Sophia.
I'll poke in on Sammy. Sammy, I want to check on you.
Okay.
How are you?
Sammy is very visibly shaken, and he's like, what? And he isn't entirely aware of the fact that he just got blasted by something, because he lost that moment as well. And so...
Been blasted by ectoplasmic goo, sir.
Yeah. God, I miss Patrick. I feel like we just teed something up for him there. Anyway, so he's like, what did you see in the attic? What happened to my daughter?
All in good time, sir. First, let's make sure everyone is safe. I do need to ask something of you, and it may be confusing at first. Does the name Oscar Hjort mean anything to you?
And he sort of thinks for a moment, and he's like, yes. Yes, no, but strangely. And as you say that name, Sophia says, that's, she's like, Daddy, that's the man I'm telling you about in my dreams. And he looks at her for a moment, and he's like, in your dreams? And he looks confused. He's like, in my dreams, he hunts me. In my dreams, it's so weird. Like, for some reason, I'm my grandfather, and he hunts me around the inn, and I can never escape. No matter where I go, I can't leave the building, and he's always hunting me. And
hunting you? Trying to harm you, sir?
He's like, yeah, it never happens in my dreams, but yes, like, I'm constantly terrified, hiding, running, and he's always, just when I think I'm safe for a moment, I can breathe, he's right there. And then Sophia explains, like, in my dreams, I'm Oscar, and it's just not like that at all, but I'm just sad all the time. And, and so they're so Sam, Sophia's still a little bit out of it. And, Sammy's sort of like, okay, what? And he's really taken aback for a moment. At that mention, where now they realize they're both dreaming in some capacity of Oscar.
Interesting. Did your wife, and I hate to bring her up, again, this may be confusing and uncomfortable for you, but did your wife Nora ever mention Oscar?
And to that effect, he's like, not to me. But honestly, you know, she left me. And obviously it wasn't something that just happened out of nowhere. So she might not have been telling me a lot of things before she took off.
Ernest will step into the room and he'll like kneel down next to Sophia's bed. Sophia, I want you to tell me everything else you know about Oscar and your performance upstairs.
And she says, yeah, like, you know, everything I know about Oscar, I put into the shadow play. You know, it came to me in dreams, and I would just write it down when I woke up, and I put together that story, you know, about Oscar. And, you know, it seemed like such a sad story. Like, things happened when he was in France. Something terrible happened when, you know, he met with his friends. You know, I don't know. So I just wrote it all down. I know, and then she sort of looks at her father and she's like, I know, you know, before she left, Mommy was, you know, sort of thinking about or writing down things about a ghost in the inn. And I don't know what she knew, but, and then as, you know, as she's saying that, Sammy gets angry, but he also understands his role in it to a degree. And sort of that dials his anger back a little bit, realizing I put pressures on her. I was awful in a lot of ways, you know, and there's a lot of regret there.
Remind me above the table, what was the end result of what happened to Oscar in the play, in the Shadow Puppet play?
Yeah. At the end of the play, I'll even read you the last paragraph of the play. Now okay. Dreams are all I have left. I gaze out over the audience at the Palais Royal. I dance with the princess. I eat cake. I look up into your eyes, Albert, and I let you take my dirty hand. You summon me to Piri's Inn, which you know is the Witch Cat Inn because Piri is Sammy's grandfather. Mm-hmm. You make me a villainous proposition and I decline. You cut me up. I scream, not wanting to die. And at last you are back. Welcome, Albert. And that's what he said when he looked right at you.
Sophia, this dream you've had, this ending to your performance this evening where Oscar was cut up, and again, pardon my bluntness, do you remember where this took place? Was it here on the grounds? Could you see where Oscar was cut up by this man?
And she, you know, she's sort of trying to remember, and you can tell like the imagery that she's had about that moment is pretty harrowing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so it disturbs her, but she's like, no, I just know all I can see when it happens is his face and his throat and how his throat. And then she starts to, you know, shudder a little bit how it's cut. It bleeds so much.
They're there. Mr. Harjula, do you recall from your dreams anywhere in particular where Oscar seemed to be chasing you or directing you towards, or where he
and Sammy tries, he's like, no, it's honestly, there's no logic to it. It's just I hide in a room and then all of a sudden he finds me, and then I run up to the attic and all of a sudden he finds me.
Very well. Did your mother or did your wife keep a diary?
And he looks at you and he's like, I understand the need to ask that question, but I do not want my wife brought into this. And if you want, I'll let you try and roll a manipulate roll and see how this can go, or we can keep talking it out.
I would like to try to manipulate him.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Okay. Would you like to push that? No. Okay.
No, that's okay. And what that looks like is, I thought about like pulling out some identification and like presenting it like a warrant card, like the society was something official. But instead, I take the approach that I just tell him, Mr. Harjula, you have been most accommodating, and I know that this is uncomfortable and confusing to you. But if we are to get to an answer of this, and you and your daughter are to sleep comfortably, we must confront those unusual things. But I will respect your decision.
And just so you know, in the last session, you noticed that the door was locked. Now that you're standing close to Sammy, you can see that he actually keeps a key ring on his belt. You could also, if like you didn't care about the noise, you could probably, I don't know if you're stronger or if...
into Nora's room?
Yeah, you could just kick the door in, or if Gertzen's stronger. I mean, you could take drastic measures, but I don't know what would potentially happen with that.
I don't know if we're there quite yet.
Okay. But you do see that Sammy does have a key ring on his belt. You can make assumptions.
Mr. Harjula, if I apologize for being so forward, I assume what you wear on your belt is a master key and keys to all the buildings on the property.
And he sort of looks down and he sort of eyes you suspiciously, having just asked about his wife, and everybody's like, yes, these are the keys that, you know, for the entire inn.
If it's agreeable to you, I'd like to find Oscar, and that may require us entering rooms or buildings on the property that are locked. I know I am just a stranger tonight, but I assure you my associate, Mr. Osberg, and our associate downstairs, Mr. Clint, we mean you or your property no harm. We are a bit of experts in this particular field.
And he looks at you for a moment. And he seems like he's like, you know, at first he's like, find Oscar. What do you mean find Oscar? Like, I don't even know. And then as he's talking to you, you know, you're at the door. He's sitting sort of maybe say on the edge of Sophia's bed. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you see Oscar come back through the wall behind Sammy. And he just looks at you and goes, "Oh, Albert, what are you doing?" And then he flashes through Sammy. Everything goes dark. And then a moment later, the lights come back on. Now the lights up here are sort of that sort of blue that the lights on the first floor are. And Sophia's now asleep. Sammy's on the floor. And all of a sudden he sort of shakes his head a little bit. And he goes, "Oh God." And he just sort of sits up and he's sort of looking at his hands, you know, as if they, you know, he sees something that you don't. And he's just like, "My God, what have I done? What have I done?" And,
Mr. Harjula, I assure you, nothing. You've done nothing. Easy.
He's like, "Oh, no, I absolutely have done. Why did I do this? Why would I let myself get talked into this?"
Talked into what?
He's like, "Oh dear God, I can't believe." And he starts like, I don't think I can deal with this. I don't think, oh, my soul is damned. Oh my God.
Stay with me, Sammy. What have you done?
And he starts breaking down like in tears.
Sammy, I need you to say, and I'm going to try to like inspire him a little bit. I need you to focus on me and my voice. What we are dealing with right now is of grave importance, and if I lose you, we may not get answers tonight.
All right. Let me see. Yeah, and so he starts to stand up, and he's sort of looking past you in a way. He's sort of like, you know, again, he's still looking at his hands, and he's starting to cry more. He's like, and he starts like wiping him on his shirt, and again, you don't see anything. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh God, why did I let myself get talked into this?" And then he sort of pushes past you and starts heading downstairs.
I will follow. Seeming what I just said seemed to have no effect on him, I will let things play out. But I'm staying close behind him as he heads downstairs.
Okay. Let's see. He ends up going downstairs.
Okay.
And then he goes towards the door and heads outside into the storm.
I grab Olas is like still stunned and asleep there.
Yeah.
I pull off Olas's overcoat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I drape it over myself and I follow him outside. Is Gerton following me?
Would you like him to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would both be doing this, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, like maybe as I pass by Gerton, check on Sophia and meet me downstairs as soon as you can.
Okay. Yeah, so he does that, and yeah, eventually makes his way downstairs. Yeah, and Sammy's gone outside into the storm. And he makes his way over to the conservatory is sort of broken, dilapidated, partially collapsed.
Okay.
But there's still some, there's still beams, there's still like a wall, some part of the structure is there. And sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I was. Yep.
Oh, so he goes he sort of stumbles through the rubble, and he finds like, eventually he finds like a piece of like a broken glass.
I get very close to him, like within arm's reach, and I'm hovering right above him.
Okay. Like close enough where people in other circumstances would yell like kiss, 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 or not quite that close?
Yeah, maybe not quite that close. Close enough where I could grab his arm or try to deflect a blow if he like lashed out at me or tried to harm himself. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So yeah, he goes in there, and again, like he sees you, but he's not focusing on you.
Mm-hmm.
And still crying, still like, whatever's on his hands, he can't wipe off. And finally he just goes, "God damn you, Hilmer and Albert." And he starts to take the glass to his throat.
Okay. I'm going to immediately reach out. Sammy, no!
Okay. And so why don't we do this? Why don't we, technically speaking, I don't think this is worth like a full combat. But let's do like some kind of like opposed strength check or something like that. Let's take a look at Sammy here. Let me see what he's got. Yeah, do you have force, close combat, agility, anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a point in close combat.
Okay, if that's your best one, go ahead and give it a shot.
Okay.
And I will do the same.
One success.
Okay. Was that you or was that me? Oh, wait, no. Do I have to... What am I doing?
Oh, wait. That was...
I don't see your icon on the roll. That's why I wasn't sure.
Neither do I. I think it was me still.
I think that was you. So,
Yeah.
Test. There we go. So you had one success.
Oh.
He very nicely had 0 success. Okay. So let's say like it turns into a bit of a scrum, and he's trying to obviously slash his own throat. You manage to wrestle the glass away from him.
Sammy! And now, Gerton, get in here.
All right. And
Sammy, what have you done?
And so Gerton comes in, and Sammy's still looking at you confused, and he's like, "Who the hell is Sammy?"
Who are you?
It's like, "Who am I? I'm the owner of this establishment."
What is your name?
My name, I'm Peary. I own the Witch Cat Inn.
Peary, my name is Ernest Anderson, and this is my associate Gertrude Osberg. You will not understand a word I'm saying, but right now, you and your descendants are in grave danger. I need you to tell me exactly the agreement you have reached with Mr. Coca-Cola and Mr. Rodenheimer.
And all of a sudden, you hear a whisper, "Oh, Albert, it's not that simple." And Sammy falls asleep.
I reach down and I take the keys off his waist.
All right.
So,
Obviously, yeah, he doesn't resist. He's completely out, just like everybody else on the first floor. And yeah, what would you like to do?
Gerton, does this mean anything to you? I have inklings, but I do not know the immediate next step we should take. There are a few spots we have not visited yet on these grounds. I see the cellar over there. Perhaps we can venture down there. I must say, this is my most immediate contact with Vaesen. Sorry, I keep scrolling out. I forget that people are looking at my screen, and I just scroll while I watch. Other than, of course, my own tragedy, but I feel for the Harjulas and everyone inside that inn unless we figure this out.
Yeah. So you grab the keys. Sammy's still, he's asleep in the conservatory, like rain coming through the broken roof. So he's wet. Yeah. And like you said, so you haven't checked out the cellar and you have the keys now to the entire inn. So, what would you like to, and of course, Sammy's just laying there in the mud.
So Gertrude, and I don't expect him to, I just give him the chance. Like, this isn't, and it's not striking anything in earnest either, but I'm just asking, like, does any of this mean anything to you?
Sorry. Yeah. And Gerton's like, no, I haven't encountered anything like this with the Vaesen that I've seen. No.
Okay. Follow me, Gertrude. And while we're outside, I'll approach the cellar.
Okay.
And try to open the door.
Yeah, the door is opened.
Okay. I don't think we have torches or anything, but I'll step inside.
Okay. So you step inside and it's obviously quite dark. As you sort of step inside, it seems like, okay, you sort of step into this cellar, but once you start to kind of see a little further in, you can see that something seems off. On the walls are shells of food crawling with maggots, bugs, rats. There's a strong wind coming from somewhere, and all of a sudden you hear, "You were everything to me. You let Perry kill me. And I will." It's just a Hilmer. These little fragments of whispers.
Whoa.
And all of a sudden, like, it seems like it opens way up into something much bigger than it should, given what you saw from the outside.
Gertrude, are we ready for what awaits us? And he reaches into his breast pocket and pulls out his pistol.
And he's like, absolutely. And what did I give him? Did I give him anything? Let's just assume he's got something similar. What is
an AK-47? What?
I know, what? He's force close combat. He might have like a melee weapon of some kind. Maybe his cane is also like a
nice
shillelagh or something.
Love it.
So yeah,
I'll press in further and try to keep pressing forward.
So yeah, as you go further in, all of a sudden something shimmers in front of you. And you see the image of a young man, a well-dressed man, a handsome man. And you do recognize him as Oscar, but like proper, not decayed,
okay.
not, and he's sort of looking at something, and he's sort of got like this sparkle in his eye. Almost like, he's looking at something he's quite fond of, and you're not quite sure what that is. And then all of a sudden he snaps his head to the side and he starts to scream. And as he does, you're not hearing anything, but as he does, his neck is snapped back and his throat just opens, and blood starts pouring through, and his, whatever he was looking at, that fondness that he has is now just pure shock, pure horror, and pure rage. As he clutches at his throat, the blood comes over his fingers and he collapses to the ground. Now, as soon as he hits the ground, a moment pauses, but then almost like you're looking at like a time lapse, he starts to decay a little bit. Maggots start to swarm over his body, and the whole thing sort of collapses as he gets, decomposed in like the flash of an eye. And then what's left is just like some tattered scraps of clothing over a skeleton. So that's the image that you see.
Gerton, I believe we have found the murder location.
So actually, before we go any further, if you could give me a Fear 2 test. So again, you can use either, I think it's like empathy. What are the stats? There's one of two ways, some kind of logic or some kind of empathy.
Do logic again. And is it just straight logic? I can't remember now.
Well, you get a +1 because Gerton is with you. And I think last time you did like an investigative roll because that's logic +1.
Oh yeah, just to get it up to +1.
Yeah. Okay. So you fail. Let's see if Gerton, I don't know what his skills are. Logic or empathy. His is empathy. And so he needs, what do I need to roll? I need to roll 5 dice. So I'm just going to roll a skill that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it gives me 5. So let me play. I'm going to roll his close combat because that gives me 5 dice. Okay. He's going to push it. Okay. So he keeps his wits. He's going to take on I guess he would take on a mental condition. So I'll just mark that if I can. I don't know if it did. And so he sort of keeps himself collected. And as you start to lose it, he kind of just slaps you in the face, so to speak. And says, "You've got to, pull it together, sir." And
Christian, this is the spot. We are standing potentially on his remains. Can you imagine the type of spirit murdered, uncared for remains would attract?
And he's like, This is unnatural, sir. This is quite unnatural. What do you want to do?
We need to see that justice is brought about for poor Oscar. And I think it begins immediately with his remains here.
Now, just so you know, like in the vision you saw everything, but you haven't actually literally seen.
I start to dig a little bit. I'm assuming, and I'm a little bit mad right now, a little bit frightful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just start digging at the ground.
Okay. And as
Gertrude, I feel this is the spot. I feel this is the spot. There must be something here, and I'll start digging.
And as you do, you hear a voice. It's like, "Oh, Albert. Oh, no. I don't know what you think you're doing."
Oscar, I stand up. Oscar, I am not Albert. I am not Helmer. My name is Ernest Anderson, and I'm here to help you.
And as you say that, all of a sudden you hear some noise behind you. And you see Father Niels and Jonathan at the door. And both of them, the father has grabbed like a knife from inside the inn. And you look at them and they're not, it's not like, oh, there's the father. Their eyes are empty, but they're sort of sleepwalking. And Jonathan has grabbed like a rock from outside, and they're both sort of stumbling towards you with these weapons in their hands.
I immediately wheel on them, and I point my pistol at them. Gentlemen, listen to my voice. I do not want to hurt your physical forms, but you must fight the things inside of you. Helmer, Halbert, you have done enough wickedness here. Do not taint this ground any longer. I have no idea if this is effective or not, but he's trying it.
Yeah, so give me... who are you directing that to?
Halbert and Helmer. And I'm even, and maybe this is extreme and is going to get me killed, taking a somewhat protective stance with Oscar. Like, I position myself and I have my arm kind of extended back, and I put myself between them and Oscar. Yeah.
Okay. And, Oscar sort of kind of looks around. And he's like, "Oh, you fool. Do you think they're here for me?" Albert, they're here for you.
I am not Albert.
And now behind them, you see Sven, and he's got a broken bottle, and they're all starting to approach you. And Oscar just starts to laugh. He's like, "Oh, Albert, I've been waiting for this for a long, long time." And why don't you give me a manipulation check?
Okay.
Okay. Just so I can get some bearing. And so, these, three people start to close in on you, and they're getting ready to attack you and Gerton. So what would you like to do? And again, there's a vacancy to their eyes. You know that it's not literally them doing this. This is Oscar.
So I don't actually want to shoot them.
But I do. Bam. No.
Let me think for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know I've asked this before, but I'm just going to keep, is this yet enough information for Ernest to understand how to deal with the spirits at play here, or I don't have...
You know what? Let's
And it's okay if it's not. If I need to keep, do I know the answer is that I need to salt the ground here or something like that? I don't know.
Right. I feel like, let me think for a second. So I think what you can piece together is, obviously Oscar was murdered. His remains were not properly cared for.
Mm-hmm.
So give me one more learning roll.
Okay.
You're starting to get some clues to put this together. Okay, cool. So the way I've sort of been doing this, just for anybody who cares, it's all arbitrary, obviously, but in the past I was looking for 2 successes because you only had brief glimpses of information, but now that you've put a few things together, let's just say you have an idea that what you're dealing with in this case is a revenant. Revenant is the undead spirit of an evil human full of hatred for mankind and an urge to frighten, harm, and kill. Usually it wants to torment its family or other people it used to loathe back when it was still human. You know that, I'm just going to read this to you because you know these things. You know that revenants are usually invisible, but they can appear as monstrous figures. Sometimes they're black as night and several meters tall. Anyway, they can be ghostly. They can take control of people. You know these things.
Okay. But I do not know how to stop a revenant, correct?
No. Let's say, you need to do some more fact finding.
I assume I have a revolver, and I will... Oh, I need to remember that I can use my +2.
Oh, right. You had the prep. Yeah, you get one
which
time
was
+2.
studying. Yeah. I think I played it a couple different ways, like prepping my pistol and also like all the study and prep time I did.
Yeah.
Ooh. I will fire a warning shot at the feet of Father Clarhead.
Okay. It doesn't do anything because, again, he's not
right.
He's not himself. Yeah, he's just sort of shambling towards you like Night of the Living Dead style. And they're starting to get close. So let's say...
Oscar, you were wronged. Let us right that wrong. Do not continue on this vicious, unending cycle of violence and death. Let us bring you justice.
All right. Give me... Let's see. Give me one more manipulate roll. Okay. And he's like, "Oh, Albert. I think it's time you join me." And he sort of fades and...
I blurt out, "You loved her, didn't you?"
And he's gone.
I will attempt to lunge forward into Father Clarhead and attempt to run out of the cellar.
Okay. Yeah, give me a... Let's take a look. Give me a force roll.
Okay. Hot dice. Hot dice.
All right. Do you want to push that?
No, I won't.
Okay. So let's say you sort of they sort of grab you, hold you in your tracks for a moment, and they take a swing. Now, here's one thing I was kind of curious is how does this handle combat? And the answer might be it doesn't. So, if you can give me, if you click on the big symbol, like in the center bottom part of the screen. Okay, so the way this game works is I think you have like a deck of initiative cards, like 1 through 10. And so what I was going to do is have you roll a d10, but they've hardwired it so you can only roll a d6 as far as I can see. So I'm trying to see if there's any other... Since there's not that many people, just give me a d6 roll.
Okay. Yeah, I can't scroll up. Sorry, I was just double checking.
Okay, so you get a 4. Gerton, he's going to roll... Is it rolling? There we go. He also rolls a 4. Okay, and let's have... the other 3, I'm just going to have them go at the same time, just to make it simpler. 1. Okay, so you guys are going to get to go first.
Okay.
So what would you like to do? Now, combat in this game is much like other Mutant Year Zero games. It's a fast action and a slow action. On page 60 of the rule books, the rule book is a chart of your typical slow actions and your typical fast actions. And yeah, what would you like to do?
I would like to open up to page 60.
All right.
Start with that. Interesting that there's no like combat. Oh wait, I have actions.
Oh, do you have actions on this?
Nope,
sheet?
that's just bartering and resource roll.
Okay.
So, and maybe just because it's just close combat. What do you need a pool of actions for? I already have my weapon out. So I will...
Now, under your equipment, you have anything?
Just my pistol.
Okay, but that doesn't seem... Okay, that doesn't let me seem to do any equipped. Now, if I equip it, does that make an action for it? So, if you go to your equipment, do you have a little empty circle next to the revolver?
Mm-hmm.
And if you click that, does it equip it?
Oh, new action available.
And now it makes a new action available?
Yeah, but I don't think I want to fire it.
Okay.
I want to pistol whip Father Clarhead.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that'll be a slow action.
Okay.
Which would be close combat, right?
Yes.
Ah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll just his slow shambling is crafty.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think I'll hold my fast action.
Right, because you need to do that if you want to dodge, right?
Yeah, like if you want to dodge or parry.
Okay.
Oh wait. Yeah, you save your fast action in case you want to do that. So yeah, Ernest, he fires the warning shot and then he tries to make a dash and he doesn't. And when Father Clarhead grabs him, he does this cool like slow motion. He pops the pistol up and he grabs it and the barrel's, it's only one round, but it's stinging his hand a little bit. And he tries to bring it down, But Father Clarhead is round and greasy, and it's a glancing blow.
All right. Okay, and so what would you like Gerton to do? Let's just say he's got a pistol as well, and he's also got his his cane that can act as a bit of a club.
Let's say he's like trying to use his cane to trip either Jonathan or Sven, whoever has the most menacing looking weapon.
Okay. Let me see. So I guess I have to play his character. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to do a close combat as well. Nice. Yeah, he. Yeah. So sorry. Who is he trying to trip?
Whoever had the most menacing looking weapon.
Okay. Let's say. Yeah, we had. I would say that it was probably the father because he had an actual carving knife. The other one was like a.
Oh, one of the other two though. One of the other two. I'm dealing
okay.
with father, yeah.
Let's say that it's him. Maybe he's got like a part of a chair with nails sticking out of it.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so he tumbles, and given those numbers of successes, I don't know if I'm doing combat 100% right, but let's say he falls and actually takes out Father Niels as well. They both sort of fall.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll have them sort of prone on the ground, and I guess it's their turn to go, or what? Anything with his fast action.
He will. I guess he's not like restrained, so he doesn't need to. I guess he'll hold it.
So yeah, I was looking at like some of your typical fast actions. You can move into the next zone. Like you could like move out of the cellar if you wanted.
Oh, you can move in the next zone. Sorry.
Yeah,
he will move into the next zone.
And do you want, since you saved your fast action, do you want to do the same?
Yeah. Well, I'll use that to move out as well.
Okay. So yeah, so they made their way into the cellar. You sort of stumble over the prone figures and make your way out. And what do you do with the door behind you?
Slam it shut, and I'm on the outside, so there's probably not a chair or anything like that to wedge me. But I'll slam it shut, and I'll turn the key and I'll lock it.
Okay, yeah, because you do have the key. So you give me I don't know what this roll would be. Let me take a look at the character gem. Again, as much as we broke up with Call of Cthulhu, there is something to the luck stat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, give me, it doesn't matter. Say like after like, you can hear sort of the door, rattling, they're trying to open it. And Gerton sort of braces it so you have the time to.
Nice.
Nope, it's not this key. And he's like, oh god damn it, you gotta find that key faster, sir.
Use the master key, you fool.
And you're like, oh. So yeah, you get the door locked. And you sort of okay, you lock the door, and as you turn, Oscar's right there.
Mystery solved. Shall we head home?
And you see the sort of decayed ghostly apparition of Oscar going, oh, very clever, but that's not going to save you. And then he disappears.
Oscar, I can save you.
Yeah, actually, give me another manipulate roll. Okay. Yeah, so he disappears. And what would you like to do next?
Did I get a chance to dig at all inside the cellar before we were interrupted?
I think you started to, but you didn't get very far with it.
Okay. I didn't get a scrap of clothing or a bone or anything like that.
No, not in the brief moment you had before they came to the door.
Quickly, Gerton. And I'll head inside, and then I'll run inside. I'll just look around. Olas is still asleep. He looks to be fine.
He's still asleep. Yeah, he's sort of slumped against the wall at the moment.
All right, I'll head upstairs, and I'll head to Nora's room.
Okay. So yeah, you get into Nora's room, and as you sort of, it's again, like it's this, you find the right key, and you get inside, and as you do, you see Lisa Finkel and Sophia come out of their rooms. Again, both very much dead stare the way the other three were, and they start coming toward the door.
I will slip inside the room and shut the door and lock it.
All right, very nice.
Lock myself in a room. What could go wrong?
Perfect. I mean, it's the the right move in every horror movie, right? You sort of go into an enclosed location that there's no escape from, and
Yeah, what could happen?
hope for the best. Yeah. Okay, so you hear sort of scratching, kicking, screaming at the door, and
I shoot Sophie in the head.
let's just end this right
I'll
now.
teach them.
Very nice. All right. So again, there's scratching, clawing at the door. You're starting to hear some movement from downstairs, but you're not sure what it is. So what do you do in this room?
I toss the room. Just look for anything relevant. Gerton, anything relevant, a diary, anything that may help us in calming this Vaesen.
Okay. So
we're dealing with a revenant, and this is when I start telling him what we're dealing with.
Got it. Okay. If you go to the handouts,
okay,
what do you see under there?
Nora's journal.
That's what you want to open.
Yep.
You want to take a look at that.
I saw it again last night as I was on my way to empty the Widower Rucker's chamber pot. The candle in my hand went out, and standing still in the dark corridor on the second floor, I could hear the floorboards move. Someone was walking toward me. I whispered my husband's name, and an unknown voice responded with a word I couldn't understand. The hairs on my arms stood up, and the blood throbbed in my veins. Finally, I dropped the pot, gross, and ran downstairs. My footsteps woke several of the guests. I had to spend more than an hour on my knees scrubbing the stench of Rutger's excrement from the floorboards. Sammy was angry. I didn't tell him I'd seen a ghost. It would be adding fuel to the fire. She goes on, and she indicates that she sees the ghost, and she says, I definitely shouldn't have mentioned the ghost. Now I won't be able to show myself to the guests for a week. The bruises around my neck can be concealed with a collar, and no one can see the pain in my chest and stomach. But my left eye is purple like a plum, and my nose is swollen. I fear for Sophia so much. She is so much like me, and I'd like to tell her everything, but I'm afraid of what Sammy would say. She goes on. She tells Sophia about her nightmares, a man being killed, murder sneaking up, much like this scene we've seen. The body is buried in unconsecrated ground. Nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, it is my body in the grave. I've been buried alive and can't get out. The fourth time, she sees a ghost again. Piri's names come up.
Right.
Sammy's furious. Written in code. Among them, I found a stack of messages all signed with Piri's name, written in code and addressed to someone in Uppsala. The code was easily deciphered. Reading Piri's love letter. So Piri had a love interest.
That's right.
And then there's a couple more entries, a few more. Piri writes of his guilt in the dead man of Oscar Short. Oscar was unwilling to cooperate with Albert. They buried his body somewhere in our garden. There you go. Piri says that instead of having a priest consecrate the ground, they desecrated his body with magic. Damn, he's worried. Piri's worried he damned the inn. Sophia's been quiet. She sent an invitation to the Troll Dreams Theater Group to attract customers, but to inspire Sophia. Sammy saw the letter from the theater director, and as I'm writing this, I've hid in the stable like a naughty child. He hit me with a fire poker. Jeez. And final entry. If I stay here, he'll kill me. Tonight, I'm packing my things, and I'm taking Piri's letters with me. I'll show them to Sophia when I can come for her. Perhaps we will return to the Witch Cat one day when Sammy has died or come to his senses. Then we can go looking for ghosts together.
There you go. So yeah, you sort of get the full picture, right? Like Piri had love letters that he was writing. He murdered Oscar. They buried his body in unconsecrated ground in the garden. And yeah.
So wait, is this a different Albert than Halbert?
There's no Halbert. It's just Albert. There's only Albert.
Sorry, my name is Albert. Very well, Halbert. No, it's fine.
The H is silent.
I don't know why I wrote Halbert.
Jim Halpert of The Office.
Right, exactly. Let's. I don't know if I can edit that. Oh, interesting. You have to. Okay, Halpert. Very good. Gerton, I know where he is buried. We must consecrate the ground. And I take the butt of my gun and I bash the window open.
Okay. And as you do, you smell smoke. And below you, you see smoke coming out of one of the first floor windows.
Oh, jeez.
The inn is now on fire.
I kick open. Does it swing in or out? Does this door swing in or out?
Let's say it swings in.
Okay. I unlock the door and I open the door.
Would you like to swing out so you could do something pretty heroic?
Yeah, I was going to kick the door open and have it swing out.
Let's say it swings out then so you can do that badass stuff.
All right, so I kick the door out and open into the hallway. Is anyone there?
Yeah, the two women right there, and they sort of get hit with the door and they fall onto their backs.
Are they still starry-eyed?
Yes, they're sort of in that sleepwalking trance, and they start coming towards you.
Oh, I'm going to lure them outside, is the plan.
Okay.
Try to, at least.
Okay, let's see. Now, I know... I'm remembering stats from Forbidden Lands, but let me see what's here. Give me a... So in Forbidden Lands, there's a move stat. I'm looking to see here.
Maybe agility.
Yeah, agility if you've got it.
Oh, I don't have it. I have physique.
You got it. Okay, so you get past them.
Okay. So I'm doing the whole, like, Shaun of the Dead thing. Like, just luring them.
Yeah.
I go down the stairs, and then... Gerton, grab Olas.
Okay. So yeah, you get downstairs and you see Olaf. Let it go. Let it go. Olas is the one actually setting the fire.
Oh, shit. Hey, over here. I'm trying to get his attention.
And once he's got the fire really roaring, he sort of like grabs something, like wraps a rag around it and sort of turns it into like a torch and starts coming after you.
Oh, lovely. Perfect. This way. And I never interacted with poor Miss Home, so...
No, but she's now grabbed...
Player knowledge. I'm not going in there after.
She also comes out when she hears you, and she's got a weapon in her hand, and she's chasing after you now. Well, chasing the shambling.
Okay. Where's the garden? I run out. I burst outside, and I'm hoping that everyone is following me.
Yeah. Let's say they are, and let's just say the garden is here. It's in sad state, but let's say like maybe there's like a trellis. Is that it's sort of broken, and there's an overgrown bench.
I understand that he's outnumbered like 7-1. Gertrude, hold them off, and I'll run into the garden, and I clear the bench in the little 3-foot high garden fence that's dilapidated, and I just start digging into the mud.
Nice. Is this some like Hodor stuff we got going on with Gerton? All right. Yeah. So you start digging and you're digging, and Gerton he's not. Yeah, I guess he's sort of dealing with these 4 people. And let me just do a quick roll for him just to see how this is going. I'm going to play him. I'm going to do a force roll, test it. Yeah, he's starting to get overrun. And so maybe Ingela and Lisa are sort of grabbing his arms, and he's able to sort of fight them off a little bit, but that's what allows like Olas to come and start to try and overwhelm him. And on your side, you are digging. Let me see. Give me a learning. I wonder if inspiration wouldn't be. Okay. You start to see scraps of clothing.
I pull up my iPhone and I Google how to consecrate magically tainted land.
Right. And Siri gives you results back for how to concentrate.
Damn it. Shit.
So you see the bones.
I see the bones. I'm here. Gertrude is getting overwhelmed. All right, I stand up. Oh, I keep trying to get back into alchemy, but I was like, no, that's a page full of notes. It's like, and I'm going to stand up, and my goal is to run to the cellar.
Okay.
But I'm going to take this route and body check Olas as I go by.
Okay. So let's say this. As you stand up and as you're about to take off, all of a sudden you see Oscar right in front of you. And he's like, oh, Albert, what are you doing?
Oscar.
What do you have here? Digging in the dirt like an animal.
I am no animal. What you're doing is animalistic. These are your remains. We must consecrate them. I can bring you everlasting peace.
It's like, why would you need to do that? And then he sort of looks at you for a second. What I'd like to do is a manipulate roll with a +1. So if you can, I don't know what you usually roll a 3. So if you can find something that's a 4.
A manipulate with what?
A +1. So if you just give me 4 dice.
Well, my manipulate. Oh yeah. Wait, no, my manipulate is a 4, so I need someone with a 5.
Oh, okay. So why is your manipulation up here only rolling 3?
Because I'm.
Oh, because of
my.
Okay, and do you want to push that?
I will push it.
There you go.
So I take a status effect.
And he looks at you, and he sort of has this look in his eyes where at first it was glee and torment and happy to confuse and maliciousness, but all of a sudden he just sort of stops, and he is actually a little confused. He's like, what? And he sort of looks past you.
I drop to my knee and I dig in the muddy slop, and the first hard object that I think is a bone and not a rock or a twig.
Mm-hmm.
Grab it and I hold it up. And as the rain washes the mud away, Oscar, this is you. They have wronged you, and they have left your remains here in unconsecrated grounds to rot. They desecrated your body. Let me bring justice. And I hold it up right in his face.
And he looks at you, and all of a sudden you're starting to... His confusion turns to horror and then overwhelming grief. He just wails and drops to his knees. And he just screams out, oh my God, they killed me. And he's starting to realize he might not have realized he was dead. And so he sort of, kneels by the sort of the gravesite there and, weeps in his own way for a moment. And looks at you, and all of a sudden he has this, his eyes, sort of squint a little bit, and he goes, you're not Albert.
My name is Ernest Anderson, and I understand the hatred and pain you have felt, but it ends tonight.
And he looks at you for a moment, and he goes, I just want peace. I don't want to do this anymore. For so long, I've been after revenge, and I thought that I could get it. I didn't understand what I was and what I was doing. And meanwhile, in the background, you see Gerton is sort of starting to get overwhelmed and falling under the pile of the people around him.
I reach down and I pull out another bone, hoping to amplify what I'm saying. Oscar, hear my voice. You were murdered by vicious, savage men, and the consequences of that. Justice was never brought about, but let me do my part. No more people need to die tonight. Let those people go.
And he sort of looks over his shoulder, and you can hear like Gertzen, like, crying out in pain, sort of like, something goes over his mouth and it goes away for a second. And he sort of looks back at you and he sort of slowly nods. And as he does that, the 4 people sort of go limp and sort of fall on top of or to the side of Gertzen. And he's able to eventually push his way out from under the pile.
Remind me, is Olas a member of the society?
He is not a member of the society. He mentioned that he does. I think he mentioned that he's able to have the sight a little bit,
okay.
But he's not an official member of the society, no.
I want to say that maybe by now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the proper way to deal with Revenant is to consecrate the ground.
Yes. Okay. Or to find consecrated ground.
Is there a cemetery here?
There's not one here. Obviously back in Uppsala there would be. I think. Let me see.
Well, I have another idea.
There's a town a little bit further away. A small town.
Oscar, wait here a moment, please. And I run over to the cellar and I kick the door open.
And when you do, you see the 3 people inside. They're also limp. They've slumped over.
I reach in and I grab Father Neil's Bible and I grab his holy vial. Holy water.
Okay. And
I run back and I pick up the bones and I dig all the old dirt away. And I get out of the garden and I understand this is like a long going process. And I can imagine like Oscar's form just like staring in disbelief. And I bring over fresh mud and dirt from somewhere like right over the property line or something like that, if that works. And I pour all of the holy water in the area.
Okay.
And I say, Oridum sacrum hinctarum consecro. And then I bury the bones.
Very nice. And give me a learning roll. I'm obviously not gonna be like, sorry, you just read the passage about somebody begatting somebody. Okay. So yeah, you sort of get this down. You the holy water is just whiskey. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Nice.
So you sort of...
That's just the line from Supernatural, Matt. That's not how you...
Right.
That is what that's from. I Googled like how to
consecrate.
And it's from the Supernatural wiki. That worked for them for like 30 seasons. So
hey, it counts, right? So let's just say you sort of, put it together and you sort of get the ground and you successfully consecrate it. But what you see is Oscar. He's obviously like this decomposed, form. And what you see is earlier you saw him go from a young man finely dressed when his throat's open and he in time lapse decomposed right in front of you. You're sort of seeing the opposite. You're sort of seeing in time lapse like the scraps of clothing sort of undeteriorate and reform and reconnect. And as that happens, like all of a sudden you see the maggots coming, but instead of going down and sinking, they're rising up and getting fewer and fewer. And as that happens, the flesh, underneath it, reconstitutes. And the whole process is agonizing. Oscar is thrashing, he's screaming. But at the end of it, he, collapses. The only thing left is the gash in his throat. And he sort of stands, he gets to his knees. And he starts to thank you, but he goes, and he just collapses and he disappears.
I was going to offer him employment at the society. I'm not kidding.
Maybe should
like,
there's a lot of filing.
No, he could be the friendly,
friendly ghost,
the friendly converted revenant that stalks around the society building and does things like all the meal prep and helps us answer questions and investigative stuff.
Oh, that would have been. Oh well.
Have you read? I think I've asked you before, but have you read Rivers of London?
No, you mentioned it, and I think we have it in the house.
Okay, yeah, it's fun. Anyways,
nice.
Not to detract from like the whole like peace finally and undecaying. Yeah, that's very moving. But the whole time I'm just like, I just want to get a word in to offer him a job.
There's a bit here.
Yeah.
The stupid GM would shut his mouth.
But it's also like legitimate. I want it.
Oh, okay.
No, it's all right. He's gone.
All right.
Next spirit, whatever it is, gets a
job.
An invite to join. Yeah.
Nice. So as that happens, Oscar obviously fades away and everyone starts to come to, but the inn now is completely engulfed in flames.
Sammy.
And
you
are
lucky. There are so many witnesses.
And he's sort of
authorities.
Go ahead.
The authorities will be following up. I will make sure, and I get in real close to him right now. I will make sure that you lose everything, and Sophia will be safe. You disgust me.
And he was sort of half out of it because he just sort of came to, but you can tell like he knows what you're talking about. He knows, he's got, even though he's never said it out loud, the guilt is just eating him up inside. And all he can do
I did not help that.
And then he just sort of turns and looks at his inn burning to the ground. And it's completely engulfed in flames. And he tries to charge into it.
I don't stop him.
And Gerton sort of looks at you like, should I? And you sort of nod him, shake him off, wave him off, or?
I look at Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like hesitantly nod, like, but I don't stop him.
Okay, so nod like, yes, please, Gerton, stop him, or just let him go?
Yeah, I guess I nod to like stop him.
Okay. Yeah, because and Sophia, screams like, Father, oh my God. And
Papa!
And she actually starts to lunge after him.
No, I'll nod to Gertrude to stop him.
Okay. So Gerton, let's see, he's going to...
Although Sophia wanted to be a ghost hunter, I wonder if she's interested in a job.
Let's see. Yeah, so Gerton manages to tackle Sammy before he gets to the burning inn. And he's just, wailing and screaming, just let me go in there. Just everyone's better off without me. Sophia's better off without me. Let me just go in. And, Sophia's like screaming, no, Papa, no, no, no. And as that happens, the inn, one of the walls sort of collapses under the weight as the fire completely engulfs it, which then takes down part of the roof. And the total destruction of the inn is basically now complete. And, Sammy, he's not going to jump in there anymore. He sort of just remains on his knees with his, face buried in his hands. And Sophia runs over to him and tries to offer some kind of comfort, but there's not much to be had. And as you're sitting there, Olas comes over to you. And he's like, what happened?
I finally pull off like his overcoat, or maybe I pick it up like out of the mud.
Mm-hmm.
I hand it over to him. Olas, a tragic tale, a tragic performance, but it is done now.
And he's like, and was it the Vaesen?
Indeed. He stands up. A revenant. I must admit my first encounter with one directly. But these people, whether they deserve it or not, he shoots at us, gets a look over it. Sammy, shall now know peace.
And he says, very well. And the revenant, did you destroy it?
Destroy is not how I want to view this. You understand, Olas, we must work with and cooperate and assist these spirits. The Vaesen are so important to this world, and even when they do wrong, there's something to be understood. So we merely assisted the Revenant on to the next path of its journey, the next leg of its journey. It will bother us no more. It is done.
And he looks at you, and he sort of smiles a little bit, and he's like, you really believe that, don't you?
Absolutely.
And then he sort of says, okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad we were able to help. He's like, but look, just remember, like, what you believe matters. And don't let what you believe get you killed. And with that, he sort of like kind of gets his coat back on. He sort of pulls part of it up over his head so that the rain sort of runs off. But as he's doing that, you realize like the rain's starting to let up a little bit.
I just, I don't think there's any more business here, but I'll nod to Mr. Clint, and I'll give him a card.
Nice.
Mr. Clint, if you are ever in need of our assistance, please. But I believe our work here is done. And like in a mystery masterpiece like Sherlock-esque moment, I see it like Ernest Anderson just like walking through them as they all kind of look on.
And as you do that, again, like, the rain's starting to let up, and the first cracks of light are starting to come over from the east. And so you can sort of see, like, as the sun starts to rise, you can see the edge of the storm clouds just a little bit off to the side. And you realize that, pretty soon the storm will have passed. And it'll come back to being a beautiful day. And that is where we will fade to black.
Nice. Awesome.
But then you're murdered by a hitchhiker. Fade to black. No. No, that's where we'll call it. I wasn't sure if we were going to get through the whole thing tonight, but I kind of like that we did. I didn't want it to be like, it sort of ramped up at the beginning, at the end of the last session, and I didn't want it to then just peak, but then valley, for 15 hours. So hopefully that was okay.
No, it was amazing. I really liked it. I do have some questions and just like concerns in general with like investigative games. So how does this adventure, if we can peel back and one, thank you, amazing job.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Enjoyed the scenario a lot. What does this adventure like propose you do if your players don't try to consecrate the ground, or they try to, because the rulebook tells you that Vaesen is very much not about combat, but obviously this scenario introduces combat because of the brain dead zombie things.
Right.
But if the players go like murder hobo, do they just deal with the consequences and get overwhelmed, or does it have like alternatives? Like if they don't try and consecrate the ground and try to find out what kind of Vaesen it is there any kind of like if they don't find the journal,
right?
That really, like, I suspected like, oh, we have bones, it's an unconsecrated ground, so it's disturbed, we need to bring in justice. But like Nora's journal, it very clearly says that they unconsecrated ground and they desecrated the remains with magic.
Yes, yeah. I have no idea. I never read the adventure. Not really. Obviously,
it's like I was starting to laugh. And I was like, "Wait,
did he not read the adventure?" Because he kind of ran it like he didn't read the adventure. No. So I will say this: it does talk about a couple different things. One, like it gives options for if the players like just run away, and it gives, and it does talk about the idea like if you start like straight up murder hoboing people, when you eventually figure it out, you're going to have to deal with the consequences. Like, you don't just hand wave that part. Yeah, right. And so, but it doesn't specifically say, it sort of assumes either you run away and you don't solve it, or you get enough information to know to consecrate the ground. Now, I'll be honest now, in the book, what they say is, like the players can take the remains to the nearby town where there's a church cemetery. And they're like, and if one of the players is like I guess you can play like a priest. And like if the player's a priest, but I was like, but there's a priest here. And so I was like, it makes sense that you could probably, grab his stuff and try and wing it. And what I had you do was, there's no way I was not going to let that work. But the reason why I had you roll, I think a learning roll or something, was just to see, like, if you did it properly, you usher him off into the afterlife peacefully. But if you don't, it's like the guy's burned alive back into heaven or whatever. So, so there's a lot of anguish in his piece, but you did manage to pull it off.
That's my like concern with anything like this is because I love the idea of the Vaesen. It's very much you're not going to shoot them, but if the players don't figure it out.
Right.
Then I guess you're right. They just run away or they go murder hobo and.
Right. And the other thing, there was a couple things at play. One is like, how do you deal with a problem like Maria, which is a revenant? And two, Oscar did not know he was dead. And so if you remember, I kept having you roll manipulate rolls. And each one of those was when you're trying to tell him, hey, idiot, you're dead in some capacity. And finally, as like the evidence mounted and you could point to it, that's why I gave you like the bonus to try and do it. But so I think that the idea they have is that you figure it out from Nora's journal. You eventually convince Oscar one way or another that he's dead, and then that might be able to trigger an answer, or you run away. Now, if you run away, Oscar keeps haunting the inn, but there's nothing to say that you don't go back to the occult library, gather more information now that you know what you're looking at. And then
come back.
Right. And then I would have said, okay, you need, and then, what would have happened in the book is like, you would get back the next day or whenever you come back. Some of the guests might have left. Some of the guests are still there. They have no memory of what happened the night that they all fell asleep. But but the inn continues to be haunted until you deal with it. Now in this game, I think technically speaking in the adventure, it says that the body is actually buried in the root cellar, but it did mention in the journal that it was buried in the garden. And I liked the idea that you had locked everybody in. And I was like, this is better. Like you sort of isolated that part of the problem. Let's leave that. And the journal did say the garden. So I figured it made sense.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to read the whole journal.
Yeah.
I read a good chunk of it, but it may have said like they moved the body remains, and I might have skimmed over it.
That's fine.
But it worked out. What did you think, GMing it as a whole? Because I loved it as a player.
Right. So as a whole, I loved the system, and I know, like we talked earlier about, like the other YouTube channel where they talked about running this for for Cthulhu, I would do that in a heartbeat. And I know they had a lot of debate. Well, like maybe it would work with this way. Not. I would say screw it. I would just say it'll be fine. So I loved running it, and I loved just how quick it was and how it seemed like it handled almost everything except when I was like wanting like a luck roll.
It needs the luck roll. Yeah.
It needs something, yeah. But otherwise, I felt like it was great. And I would, if I were to, and I hope to someday do some more like Call of Cthulhu proper stuff, I would absolutely do it with this system and just give it a whirl and see what happened. What did you think as a player?
I really enjoyed it. I do not like so much that when you push a roll, you're making later rolls harder.
Right.
Again, it's like, what flavor of Year Zero engine do you like? Whereas Alien,
yeah,
you're setting yourself up for more disastrous effects through stress, but you're not making yourself less efficient at those rolls. So it feels bad to push those things.
Right.
But what I think that means is that pushes here are a little bit different than pushes in Alien, where pushes in Alien are increasing your stress level. A push here is you're, in effect, eating 1/3 of your mental stability. So it's a big effort to change a die roll and get another go at it.
Right.
Taking 2 mental damage is significant in this case.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like, how loosey-goosey do you want your push roll to be?
So this, sort of raises the question, like, it almost seems so, this is such a stupid armchair quarterback thing to say, and I'll say it. It seems like such an obvious thing to like include the stress dice here.
Yeah.
And the fact that they went with the other, they just took the like rubber stamp of what a Mutant Year Zero push usually does and just went with that. It does seem like a bit of a missed opportunity. And I'm kind of wondering, I don't remember the skills in Alien. The trick with running things into VTT is that you're only able to modify it as much as the module lets you do it. Some are pretty flexible. The Mutant Year Zero ones, even on Foundry, I don't think they are. I don't think you can like rename skills and stuff like that.
You'd have to look at it, because I know with Delta Green, what's interesting is like it uses Gumshoe uses one shared module, and you can, that's all. I don't need to get into it. Some you can, some you can't. I'm sure there's a way. Now with Roll20, you'd have a paid membership to be able to edit character sheets.
Oh, right.
And then you could. So I don't know.
So it makes me wish. So like one of the great things about Foundry is that it really supports free league games. The downside with Foundry is that it does it all individually. Because they're all different enough that you can't just lump one in. But I wish there was like a Mutant Year Zero generic module out there.
Where you could name all your skills and make it work the same way.
Yeah, because I feel like if you ran this with a reskinned Alien, you're basically there. I feel like that's kind of it, because just like the xenomorph is going to have the same stats as a revenant or something, right? You just whatever.
Right. Yeah, and in these type of games, this is probably my least favorite push mechanic, where you have Alien, we've already talked about that, but like even Call of Cthulhu is, okay, if you push your roll, here's the bad things, the consequences that are going to happen, right? Which I like. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a really good push mechanic. Where here, like, you're shooting yourself in the foot to tackle someone, or something like that. It's just, I agree.
Yeah, and that's, I think we talked a little bit about that, like when we were doing Dragonbane, when I was saying like I liked the push mechanics there because it helped me more narratively. It made sense, and we got into a little bit about how in Forbidden Lands, like, why does failing at this cause that consequence? And I think we're running into that here. But maybe there's a way to work around it. Maybe not. But I do feel like the majority of the system, I thought, worked really well for this kind of game. And if I were, it would definitely be. I just picked up. I think this. We were talking about this. I just checked out the the Age System Cthulhu game. I haven't really looked at it much, just as a curiosity, but it makes me hold out hope that there is a system out there that can cover Cthulhu material that without the Cthulhu system, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a PBTA Cthulhu. I can't remember what it's called. I don't think it was like a big fancy production. There's got to be some kind of blend of all these Cthulhu bits to come over into the perfect game.
Somehow, there's the good, perfect Cthulhu game. That PBTA is interesting because it gives the players so much agency.
Right.
Which feels antithetical to what you want in the Cthulhu game, but I guess it could be interesting if
But they know what they're signed up for, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, we'll continue our... I would say this, though. If I were to run more Cthulhu, I would do it in this system. But at the same time, I think what I would actually start with is there's a whole campaign here. There's one in England. There's plenty of Vaesen adventures, I think, to run that I would jump into first, I think.
Yeah, and we could always just... I think what you can do, since we still have it up, is I think I can go roll D... and just say oh wait, that's not what I want. Roll 6d6. Does it come up the right way? Roll 6.
Okay, so you can just sort of...
Oh, but it doesn't mark them as successes.
It doesn't mark it as successes. Yeah.
So you could play in this and then just understand how the mechanics will work for... you could still use this frame and then tack on, be like, all right, your last 3 dice are your stress dice, so if those pop up a 1, then that's a face hugger.
Right.
Or the equivalent of a face hugger or something like that.
Yeah, I guess you could make it work, but I guess sort of that leads into part of this sort of after action report. What did you think of Alchemy?
The whole presentation is clean and nice. I much prefer Foundry, especially knowing that you can do this. I'm pointing. I guess this isn't a podcast, so you can see me pointing. Sometimes I point on Hitcher on the table. I was like, wait, no one's actually watching this. The presentation is here, but we've talked about this off screen. That same presentation without this clean of look can exist in Foundry. Meaning you can have a moving background, you can have music playing in the background. I think the nice thing about Alchemy is it's there and set up for you, but that's not always going to be the case. And then if you go buy a deluxe module over Foundry, it's going to be set up and it maybe not have a moving background, but the Pathfinder stuff is still great with combat maps. So the thing I like most about it, you can do elsewhere, and it just has weird restrictions, tying my picture here right in the middle of the screen, and I can't move it, and that's dumb. And the not adding a die roll modifier to a test, maybe if I edit it, that just changes my skill stat in it, I think.
Right. That's what I stumbled across, I think, last time. We're you can just nope that, and I'm yeah, you can do it that way, but then you have to remember to make sure you set it back to its original value. So
there's just things that just and again, I guess I could type D6 plus 1 or whatever. So it's fine. I think they have something really cool and a nice presentation, but it's not well, this is what I need. Now, the first time I played Foundry, I was well, I've rolled 20, so maybe this grows on me. But first impressions are oh, this is fine. It's not bad. It's not great. What did you think as the GM?
As the GM, I found there were a lot of restrictions. I was I don't understand why you did it this way. A lot of them deal with the maps. Again, it's a lot of the things that you can make the argument. Well, there's 2 things. 1, I'm very new to Alchemy, so it could be user error. 2, Alchemy is relatively young in its development. Foundry's had a lot more time, so obviously it needs, I'll love to see where it goes. But there's a lot of things where this game is very much meant to be presentation first, a PBTA, theater of the mind, blah, blah, blah. But most games aren't that. And so I feel when it tries to do the other things, I think that's why in the last game I mentioned, I wonder what it would be like to watch people play D&D with this. because D&D is going to be very tactical. It's all about the maps. It's all about all these things that, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it often is.
And play D&D, but not Lost Mine of Phandelver. Like, and by that I mean not like an official thing they bought. Like, if you're homebrewing your own D&D setting, and you're gonna play in this, and then like, do you lose out? Is Alchemy's appeal lost if you don't have all the assets to make it look so pretty? Now, you could have a splash page, I'm sure, and make it look fine and do a lot of theater of the mind, much like we did tonight. I mean, I know we had the tactical map, but like without using the official stuff, does the luster like wear off, and then you kind of see like, oh, this is just.
And that's a trick, because without the official stuff, I don't know how you homebrew this. I know they're working on the tools behind the scenes for them to do module development quicker. And maybe that'll sort of trickle down to the user to be able to do things as well. But I have no idea how you do that. And then there's just a lot of things like, if you click, if you go to the tactical mode, are you still in tactical mode?
I can.
If you click on that and you click on the, what the hell's that button? The map phases? Like, do you get the Witch Cat Inn, the Journey, and the Mythic North? Do you get all three?
No. That's probably just on the
GM side. Okay, there's a lot of little things that are just really cumbersome that I hope is just once they have people using it, it starts to make people say like, okay, this is the friction we ran into when we put it out into the wild.
Yeah, but like then. Okay, so like I'm the player, right? And like those things may be useful and like clicking on other things, but if I click on the Witch Cat Inn, it gives me like the credits and shows me like the looping video that like I just like and then the link doesn't even work. Like that doesn't need to be in the game while we're playing.
Right.
So like, there's other things that you can add. Like, it's cool that you do that. Yeah, obviously, I want to know who did the art, and everyone should deserve credit, all that stuff. But I don't know. I think it needs some more time in players' hands, and they need to be receptive to feedback.
I think that's a big thing. I think having it locked into a specific kind of presentation is going to be something that I think that's going to have to give a little bit to make it really functional across the board. So I'll be curious to see where that all goes, I guess.
Nice.
Very all right. Well,
Vaesen in the bag.
Yeah, this was really great. Matt, I really appreciate this. And I really enjoyed this game. I had a great time with it. I would absolutely, the next time I run it, it's going to be in Foundry. Cause like I was hesitant, like, okay, let's go to combat. And I'm like, I don't want to like, it's I'm like trying to do it with paper and stuff like that. So I was just like, you know what, in Foundry, I feel badly saying this, but they would have initiative cards, they'd have a combat tracker, and maybe someday all this stuff will be here. But until then, I would really, the thing I would use this for is it has an official support of Cyberpunk, CBR PNK. That nice. Kind of game, I think, is the sweet spot for this. I think that is what would make this shine, and I would 100% use that for this. Use this for that. But otherwise...
Well, would you, though? Like, would you use it for this now knowing that you can put moving backgrounds in Foundry?
Well, that's a good... If Cyberpunk
If you had access to the moving backgrounds, the same ones that were put in the Cyberpunk module.
Which I could do, yeah. It's hard to say. I would definitely give it the old college try. That's the kind of thing I would try. But
right.
I think at the end of the day, I'm a Foundry girl.
Oh man, good thing I didn't buy the Kingmaker bundle for this.
And that's going back to what we were saying about Dungeons & Dragons. That's what I'd be curious to see. Like, how do you take like a very crunchy tactical game with no character sheet and maps and stuff that Fog of War, like with the, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I would have been curious, but not in a fun way, sort of in a, like that I feel like is sort of stressing this software in a way I'd be curious to see what cracked. But anyway, but I do appreciate, Matt, that you jumped in on this one.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
this is great. I think I know our schedule's a little crazy over the next month, But we have the last session of Otari coming up. We have May's podcast 1 year celebration. Should be all three of us together for that. And that leaves another session for however that shakes out. There will be a session coming up soon where it will be just the two of us, assuming schedules permit, which means
Are you ready?
we need to get together on Fall of Delta Green.
Nice. I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay.
Are you?
So there's way.
Yeah, you ready? You ready for that?
I need to spend some more time in the Foundry module. To be honest, just getting the skills done correctly, which is not hard. It's actually not that bad because I can drag over a lot of the Night's Black Agent skills, and that gets me 90% of them.
Nice.
I need to find. So as great of stuff Pelgrani does, it's too bad there's not like official images and resources to like use in your games, because I don't want to go steal a bunch of images or something like that. So like building out that Foundry module is a lot different than just like turning on Otari.
I definitely hear that. Yeah.
But I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It'll
we'll figure
be fine.
it out.
And maybe it'll be Theater of the Mind. I mean, we don't need a tactical map of.
No, not for Gumshoe, right?
Not where we're going.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, I guess with that, we can, I'll bring it home.
Very good.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for checking this out. If you're watching this, then you found our YouTube channel. So thank you for that. If you want, like, subscribe, etc., etc. We have an audio version of this as well, of the actual plays and the discussion podcast. Just search for Black Lodge Trivia Night where we get your podcast. We should show up. We are on Twitter. We are on Blue Sky, etc., etc. If you want, you can follow us there. But the main thing is come jump into the Discord. That's mostly where we hang out and chat about RPGs, CRPGs, starting to organize some games, doing a little Dragonbane and potentially some Band of Blades coming. But anyway, just, if you want to jump in, and that'd be great. But otherwise, we really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.